The woman on Henry Calloway's doorstep held a wooden box against her chest, like it weighed more than she did. Her coat was too thin for November. Her gloves had no fingers left. She had knocked 3 times, each knock softer than the last, as though part of her hoped nobody would answer. The door opened. A man stood behind it in shirt sleeves, a revolver low at his side, the gaslight from the hall cutting his face in half.
These belong to you.
She held the box forward. It was the size of a bread loaf, oak, with a brass latch gone green. Her arms shook under the weight, not the weight of the wood.
Who are you?
She did not answer. She set the box on the stone step between them and stepped back, already turning toward the street.
Stop.
His voice was not loud, but it carried the particular authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed in his own house. She stopped. The November wind pressed her coat flat against her shoulders, and he could see how thin she was beneath it.
You come to my door at 1 in the morning with a box you will not explain, and you expect me to simply let you walk into the dark. Pick it up, come inside, or I will leave it on the step and we will both pretend this never happened.
She looked at him, then at the box, then at the dark street behind her, where the gas lamps had burned low and the hansom cabs had stopped running an hour ago. She picked up the box and walked past him into the house. He closed the door. The lock turned with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence. His study was warm. A coal fire had been burning since evening, and the room smelled of leather and old paper, and the stale warmth of a house where one person lives alone, bookshelves floor to ceiling. A desk too large for the space. He cleared a stack of shipping manifests and gestured toward the chair across from him. She sat. She placed the box on the desk between them. Her hands were still shaking.
Open it.
You open it. They are yours. They were always yours.
He unlatched the brass clasp. Inside, a stack of papers, some loose, some folded, some bound with ribbon that had gone brittle with age. He recognized the handwriting on the first page before he read a single word. It was his father's. Arthur Calloway had been dead for 4 years. His handwriting had not changed in 20, the same hard slant, the same way the ink pooled where the nib pressed too long. Henry lifted the first sheet and read. It was a shipping manifest for the firm's import line dated 1881. Cargo listed as raw cotton from Savannah, 42 bales. Beside it, a second manifest, same date, same vessel, same route, but the numbers were different. Insurance value doubled, weight inflated, and at the bottom, a signature Henry knew as well as his own. He set it down, picked up the next, a ledger page. Payments to an account he had never seen, quarterly, for 3 years, to a name he did not recognize. Hargrove. The amounts were not small.
Hargrove. I do not know this name.
She said nothing. He went through 5 more documents without speaking. The 6th was worse than the first. A letter from his father to a broker in Philadelphia, written in language so careful it could only mean one thing: instructions for how to file a claim on cargo that had never been damaged. The arithmetic was precise. The penmanship was steady. His father had not been a desperate man making a reckless mistake. He had been a methodical man running a system. Henry set the letter down. His hands were steady, which surprised him. He had expected them to shake. He opened the next document, a receipt from a bank on Broad Street, dated 4 months before his father died. A withdrawal, a large one. The recipient line read only, H, services rendered. He closed the folder and looked up.
Where did you get these?
From my father's desk after he died.
Who was your father?
Arthur Lennox. He was a clerk in your father's counting house for 11 years.
Henry stared at her. The name meant nothing to him. One clerk among dozens in a firm that handled half the cotton and tobacco coming through the port of New York.
And why would my father's records be in your father's desk?
Because your father made him keep the second set of books. The real ones. The ones that show what was actually on those ships, what was actually claimed, and where the difference went.
The fire cracked. A piece of coal shifted and sent a shower of sparks against the grate. Neither of them moved. Henry looked at the documents spread across his desk. He was a careful man. He had run the firm honestly for 4 years, reviewed the accounts himself every quarter, and believed because he had needed to believe that his father had done the same.
You are telling me my father committed insurance fraud.
For at least 6 years. Mr. Lennox kept the records because your father told him to. When the scheme was discovered internally, your father dismissed him. Quietly. No reference. No severance. My father lost his position, his savings, and his reputation in the same week. He died 8 months later. The doctors called it pneumonia. I have always called it something else.
She said it without heat. That was what unsettled him most. She was not angry. She was tired.
Then you are here for money.
If I were here for money, Mr. Calloway, I would have come 3 years ago. I would have brought these to the Herald, or to your insurers, or to any one of a dozen men who would have paid handsomely for proof that the Calloway name is built on falsified cargo manifests.
Then why are you here?
Because I have run out of things to sell.
The clock on the mantel read 2:30. Henry Calloway sat behind Arthur's desk, in the house he had inherited, surrounded by the evidence of his father's fraud, and looked at the woman across from him as though seeing her for the first time.
What do you mean? You ran out of things to sell?
There is a man named Hargrove. He handled the payments on your father's behalf, the ones in that ledger. He was the intermediary. When my father died and I found the records, Hargrove found me. He understood very quickly what I had, and he understood what it meant.
He threatened you.
He offered me a choice. Bring the documents to the authorities and destroy the Calloway name and with it, the Calloway Foundation, or keep the secret and make sure he was compensated for his continued silence.
Henry's jaw tightened. The Calloway Foundation was Arthur's most visible legacy, a hospital on Mulberry Street that served immigrant families who could not afford a physician. Henry had expanded it after his father's death, hired 3 new doctors, added a ward for children. It was the one piece of his inheritance he had never questioned.
I chose the second option. I have been paying Hargrove for 3 years. My mother's cameo brooch, my father's library, 41 volumes, first editions, the only beautiful things he ever owned, the furniture, the silver, the lease on our rooms. I moved to a boarding house on Hester Street. I took work as a seamstress. When the seamstress work was not enough, I took in laundry. When the laundry was not enough, I sold my mother's wedding ring.
She recited the list the way a woman recites a prayer she has said so many times the words have lost their edges. No self-pity, no performance. Just the inventory of a life dismantled one object at a time. Henry leaned back. The leather chair creaked beneath him, Arthur's chair, in Arthur's study, bought with money that was apparently not entirely Arthur's.
Why?
I told you, the foundation.
No, I have met women who sacrifice for causes. They write letters, they organize committees, they do not sell their mother's wedding ring to protect the name of a man who destroyed their family. Why did you really do this?
She was quiet for a long time. The fire had burned low. The room had grown colder without either of them noticing.
Because the hospital on Mulberry Street was the only place that would see my father when he was dying. We had no money. No physician would come. Your father's foundation sent a doctor to our rooms 3 times a week for 4 months. He never charged us. The medicine was free. The blankets were free. When my father died, they paid for the burial.
She looked at her hands. Her fingers were rough from needlework, the nails cut short, a callus on the side of her right thumb where the thimble pressed.
Your father's money built the thing that kept my father alive long enough to say goodbye to me. I could not destroy it, even knowing where the money came from, even knowing what it cost me to keep it standing.
Henry stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the street below, the gas lamps, the bare elms, the iron fence that separated his house from a city full of people he did not know and had never thought to wonder about. One of them had been carrying his family's wreckage on her back for 3 years. There is a particular kind of shame that comes not from what you have done, but from what was done in your name while you slept. Henry Calloway was learning it now, at 2:30 in the morning, in a room that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else.
How long? From the first payment to now, how long?
3 years, almost 4.
He crossed back to the desk. Without thinking, he picked up one of the loose documents, the bank receipt, and held it beside the inventory of a counting house ledger. His father's handwriting on both. Steady, certain, the penmanship of a man who believed he would never be caught. Ada watched him. She had been watching Calloways for 3 years, their names in newspapers, their carriages on Fifth Avenue, their foundation galas reported in the society columns. She had read about Henry's expansion of the children's ward in the Tribune. She had stood outside the hospital on Mulberry Street once, in the rain, and watched a mother carry a sick child through the doors, and known that those doors were open because of money that was stolen and silence that she paid for. She had never seen his face until tonight. He looked nothing like his father. She was grateful for that. He turned back.
You should have come to me.
You did not know I existed.
I know now.
Something shifted in the room. Not the fire, not the wind outside. Something between them, the distance that had been held in place by the desk and the documents and the careful formality of strangers, shortened by a sentence. She looked away first. He noticed. He noticed, too, the way her hand rested on the arm of the chair, the way her fingers curled inward, as though she were still holding something. She had been holding things for so long her hands did not know how to be empty. He sat back down and pulled the box closer. Beneath the ledgers and manifests, at the very bottom, there was a small leather notebook. He opened it, his father's handwriting again, but smaller, more private, dates and notes. And on the third page, circled twice in ink that had faded to brown, Ada Lennox, Hester Street, paying H, quarterly. He looked up at her.
He knew.
Yes.
Henry turned the page. There was more. A second entry dated 3 months before Arthur Calloway died, instructed to continue arrangement after my death. Lennox girl holds the records. She will not go to the papers. She knows what it would cost.
My father knew you were paying Hargrove. He knew you were selling everything you owned to cover his fraud. He arranged it. He wrote it down. He told Hargrove to keep collecting from you after he was gone.
He did nothing to stop it. Yes.
Before we go any further, if you are listening to this right now, drop a like and leave me a comment telling me what city you are in. That is all. It sounds small, but it genuinely is not. Every like, every comment tells the platform this story is worth putting in front of someone else. It costs you nothing. It helps the channel more than you know. Henry closed the notebook. He set it on the desk beside the manifest, beside the ledger, beside the evidence of a life he had admired and mourned and built upon, a life that was, from the foundation up, a lie. The clock struck 3. Ada's eyes were closing. 3 years of carrying something too heavy for one person had left marks deeper than the callus on her thumb. A hollowness in the way she sat, as though she had been holding herself upright by will alone, and the will was nearly spent.
There is a room down the hall. You are not walking back to Hester Street at 3 in the morning.
Mr. Calloway.
Henry. And that was not a question.
She stood. She wavered for a moment, and he reached out not to catch her, but to steady. His hand on her arm, just above the elbow, through the thin fabric of her coat. She looked at his hand, then at him. It was the first time anyone had touched her in 3 years with anything other than the transaction of commerce. She did not pull away. She did not lean in. She held still, the way a person holds still when something unexpected happens and they need a moment to decide whether it is safe. He let go.
Thank you.
She walked down the hall. He heard the door close. He heard a few minutes later the creak of an unfamiliar bed receiving weight it was not accustomed to, the sound of a guest room that had not been used since his mother died. He sat alone in the study. The fire was nearly out. He fed it 2 more pieces of coal, not because he was cold, but because the act of tending something felt necessary. He read the documents a 3rd time. They did not improve. His father's fraud was not the kind that could be explained away by circumstance or desperation. It was the kind that ran like plumbing through the walls of a building everyone admired. Remove it, and the building still stood. But nothing inside it worked the way people believed it did.
What did you do, Father?
The empty room did not answer. At 4 in the morning, he heard something from the guest room. Not crying, something quieter than crying. The sound a person makes when they are too exhausted to cry, and their body does it anyway. without permission, the way breathing continues during sleep. A shudder. A single sound that did not repeat. He stood outside the door. His hand went to the knob. He did not turn it. He went back to the study and sat in Arthur's chair and watched the last coal go white.
Mr. Calloway?
7 in the morning. He had not slept. She stood at the foot of the stairs in the same thin coat, and the daylight from the hall window was less forgiving than the gaslight had been. Her eyes were dry, but there was a heaviness in her face that he had not seen the night before. Or perhaps it had always been there, and the dark had simply been kind. He handed her a cup of coffee, real coffee, not the chicory substitute she had been drinking for 2 years. She took it. Their fingers touched around the porcelain. Neither of them pulled away quickly enough for it to be accidental.
I should go. You have what you need. You can decide what to do with it.
I have not decided anything yet.
A knock at the front door. Hard, impatient. The kind of knock that does not wait for an answer before knocking again. Henry opened the door. A man in a well-cut coat and a hat pulled low stood on the step. He was perhaps 50, with the face of someone who had made a career of knowing things other people preferred to keep hidden. "Mr. Calloway," the man said, and removed his hat. "My name is Hargrove. I believe we have a mutual acquaintance." His expression did not change. "Ah," Hargrove said, "she has been busy."
Whatever business you have, say it here.
Henry did not invite him in. Hargrove came in anyway. In the study, Hargrove sat in the chair Ada had occupied the night before. He placed a single document on the desk, a legal affidavit, notarized, dated 2 days prior. "This is simple," Hargrove said. "You sign this." It states that the documents in Miss Lennox's possession are forgeries she created to extort money from the Calloway estate. I have a clerk who will confirm it. She takes the blame. The scandal disappears. Your father's name remains intact. The foundation continues. Everyone wins.
Everyone except her.
Hargrove smiled the way men smile when they believe money has already answered the question. "Miss Lennox has nothing left to lose, Mr. Calloway. She is a seamstress in a boarding house on Hester Street. She has no family, no standing, and no proof of anything because she just handed you all the proof she had. If you sign, this ends today."
Do not sign that paper.
Her voice was quiet. It was the first thing she had said since Hargrove walked in. She was not pleading. She was stating a fact, the way you tell someone not to touch a hot stove. Not for your sake, for theirs.
I stand before you today to confess my father's grievous
Henry
fraud.
looked at the affidavit.
I will fund
The language was
hospital
clean.
myself,
The
every
logic
penny.
was sound. Hargrove had done this before, built exits for men who could afford them. Sign the paper, and by afternoon the documents would be ashes. Ada Lennox would be a forger and an extortionist, and the Calloway name would survive intact. His foundation, his business. His father's portrait in the hospital lobby. He thought about the hospital on Mulberry Street. He thought about the children's ward he had built with money that now tasted different in his mouth. He thought about a woman selling 41 books, one at a time, to keep those doors open. "I have other appointments, Mr. Calloway," Hargrove said. "The pen is on your desk." Henry looked at Ada. She stood near the door, her thin coat buttoned to the throat, her face unreadable. She did not ask him to refuse. She did not ask him anything. She had spent 3 years not asking anyone for anything, and the habit had become a kind of armor. He picked up the affidavit, read it once, and tore it in half, then in quarters. Hargrove stopped smiling. "Then I will take what I know to the Herald," Hargrove said. "By Friday, every drawing room on Fifth Avenue will know what Arthur Calloway really was."
Then they will know.
Hargrove stood. He took his hat from the desk and walked to the door. He paused beside Ada.
You just destroyed your name for someone you met 8 hours ago?
I destroyed a lie my father built. That is a different thing.
He looked at her. She was standing in the doorway of his study, backlit by the hall lamp, and for the first time since she had arrived at his door, for the first time in 3 years of watching this family from the outside, she did not look like a woman carrying something. She looked like a woman who had finally set it down.
Stay. At least until we decide what happens next.
There is no we, Mr. Calloway. There is you, and there is what your father did. I have carried my part. The rest belongs to you."
She walked out into the morning, and he watched from the doorstep as she disappeared down the avenue, the November wind pulling at her coat, her hands empty for the first time in years. He spent the next 3 days in a state that resembled composure only from the outside. He met with his solicitor. He reviewed every ledger in the firm's old office, finding more, not less evidence of what Arthur Calloway had built beneath the surface of respectability. He visited the hospital on Mulberry Street and stood in the children's ward and listened to a mother thank him for saving her daughter's life, and he accepted her gratitude because he did not know what else to do with it. He sent a note to Ada's boarding house on Hester Street. It was returned unopened. He sent a second. It was returned as well.
Then I will say it to a room she cannot leave.
On the third day, he hosted his quarterly dinner at the Metropolitan Club. 16 guests. Business partners, investors, 2 members of the city council, their wives, crystal and silver and candles reflected in mahogany until the whole room seemed to glow from the inside. Hargrove had been talking. Henry could see it in the way conversations paused when he approached, in the way certain men studied their plates when he passed, in the careful courtesy of wives who had been briefed on something between the second and third course of their own dinners earlier that week.
Good evening, gentlemen. I trust you have all been well informed.
The table laughed politely. They did not understand yet that he was not joking. The first course had been cleared, and the second poured when the doors at the far end of the room opened, and a woman walked in. She wore a borrowed dress, dark blue, simple, well-fitted, but clearly not her own. Her hair was pinned without a maid's help. She had no jewelry. She had sold it all. But she stood in the doorway of a room designed to intimidate, and she did not look intimidated. She looked like a woman who had survived worse rooms than this one. Every head turned. Henry set down his glass. Something in his chest, the tight, careful thing that had been holding since she walked out of his house 3 days ago, released.
"My name is Ada Lennox. I am the daughter of Arthur Lennox, who was a clerk in the Calloway counting house for 11 years. I am here because there are things about the Calloway firm that this room deserves to know, and I am done being the only person who carries them."
She spoke for 4 minutes. She told them about the manifests, the inflated insurance claims, the second set of books. She told them about Hargrove and the payments, and the 3 years she spent dismantling her own life to keep their business partner's name clean. She did not cry. She did not raise her voice. She spoke the way a woman speaks when she has rehearsed the truth so many times it no longer frightens her. When she finished, the room was silent. 16 people and not one sound except the candles. Henry Calloway pushed back his chair. He stood. He crossed the room, 12 steps between them. Every step watched and stopped beside her. He turned to face the table. He reached behind him without looking and placed his hand on the small of her back. She flinched. Then she did not.
Miss Lennox is telling the truth. I have seen the documents. My father falsified cargo manifests and defrauded his insurers for 6 years. The records are in my possession and will be made available to anyone in this room who wishes to review them. The Calloway Foundation Hospital will continue to operate, funded by my personal accounts independent of the firm. And Miss Lennox, who carried this alone at a cost none of you can imagine, will not be carrying it any longer.
He did not look at her while he spoke. He did not need to. His hand on her back said what words in a dining room full of chandeliers could not. She leaned barely, just enough that her shoulder touched his arm. He felt it. He did not move away. One of the investors cleared his throat. Another reached for his wine. A wife whispered something to her husband. The city council members exchanged a glance that meant nothing good for anyone but was, at least, honest. Henry guided Ada toward the door. The room behind them had not moved. 16 people sat in their chairs, surrounded by crystal and silver and the silence that falls when a truth enters a room that was not built for it. As they passed the threshold, she stopped. The hallway was dark. The noise of the dining room fell away behind them like water.
"The box is still on your desk.
I know where it is.
What will you do with it?"
Nothing. It has done what it needed to do.
She looked at him in the dim light of the club's corridor. He was still standing the way he had stood in the dining room, shoulders back, jaw set, the posture of a man who has made a decision and does not intend to revisit it. But his eyes were different now. Softer. The eyes of a man who has just learned that the most important thing in his life walked up to his door at 1 in the morning and he almost did not open it.
You did not have to do that.
Yes, I did.
Why?
He did not answer with words. He offered his arm, she took it. Her hand rested on his sleeve lightly. The way you touch something you are not yet sure you are allowed to keep. They walked out together. The November air hit them on the steps of the Metropolitan Club, cold and clean and indifferent to the wreckage they had left behind in a room full of crystal. She had nothing. He had just set fire to everything his name was built on. They were, for the first time, standing on the same ground.
I do not know what happens now.
Neither do I.
Some people carry other people's secrets the way they carry grief, quietly, without being asked, without expecting anyone to notice. And sometimes the bravest thing is not keeping the secret. It is putting it down in a room full of people and letting them see what it cost you. Ada spent 3 years protecting something that was never hers to protect. Never told anyone, never asked for anything back. I want to ask you something, and I mean it. Have you ever done that? Kept quiet about something, paid a price no one saw, held something together for someone who had no idea you were doing it? Tell me in the comments.